That's something that I don't think people really experience unless they actually become a person that has to deal with that all the time.
There's murders are some of the most gruesome and horrible things you'll ever see. But I think what's the worst is when you live through it all, meaning you arrived on scene, you found a deceased person laying there, and then not just that, you end up having to be the person to go to the home to speak to the family.
All right, welcome back to the Telehmong podcast. This is your host Shovu. So I am back today, and we have a special guest. I cannot show his face, but he has been on the force for about 15 years. Okay. And now he is a retired officer. And we are going to be talking about some of the situations and some of his experience that he had within the force. So if you tune in, hopefully you enjoy this episode. If you have any other questions too, feel free to shoot them my way and we will get started. What got you to decide to become a police officer?
Yep. So my parents, as every Hmong family, came overseas from a war-torn country, right? So coming here, my parents spoke very little English, didn't understand the American culture. And so there was experiences when I was younger that I went through that sort of pointing in the direction of, wanting to be a police officer. Like, because my parents didn't speak English, when we were younger and they got in a car accident, people would talk down to them or they would lie, and then they would get the ticket. And my parents would get the ticket.
Oh,
And
really?
yeah. And so then it was like a disadvantage because you can speak their language. So ever since a kid, for me, I was like, I ended up being the voice for my parents growing up because I ended up being like the interpreter, as a lot of young kids do with parents that don't speak English. And so then that really motivated me. Like I wanted to go into a field that I can help people like my parents who couldn't speak English or who didn't understand the culture. And being a police officer is just one of those.
Oh, okay. And are you, out of your whole family, you are the only one?
Well, there was another brother of mine, but it didn't work out. So
Okay. What is one of the hardest things that you probably face being a police officer?
I would say one of the hardest things, or one of the hardest things, I think every police officer would agree with me, is watching children suffer.
Oh,
Right? Because I have kids of my own. Everyone has kids, and you watch children suffer. Their screams or their cries, you don't forget them.
I can't imagine that. I definitely can't. I only see it on TV, but you really never experience it unless you're actually there doing it.
Correct.
And the one really got me choked up when they found a baby in the trash can. That one really hit me. And so I don't know if you ever faced anything like that before.
Yeah, it's the baby in the trash can, it's the babies that are murdered, or parents that drink too much and they put their 1-year-old next to them, they roll along and suffocate them to death. And then you show up and they throw the baby and tell you to save the baby, and you know already that the baby's blue. There's nothing that you can do other than, try to make it look like you're helping them, just to stop them from screaming at you. Yeah. So like the sheer terror of a parent losing a child is something that I think I've heard once too many times, but it's the same scream when a person is dying, right? It's the same scream is when they're screaming for their last breath. It's the same thing when they lost a child. It's the same scream.
That's something that I don't think people really experience unless they actually become a person that has to deal with that all the time.
Right.
And you guys are the ones that have to deal with that because you have to be there when it's the worst of the worst. And they call you guys, and you have to go there to deal with that situation or face the worst of the worst criminals shooting at you or a death that you have to deal with. What is one thing that keeps you still believing in who you are as a human being still too?
I think the biggest thing is where I come from, right? I'm kind of monoculture. It's very, it's deep rooted that, you come from very family oriented background. Yeah. So having family always behind me, my brothers, my sisters, my parents, cousins, whoever, that they supported me through this, they're really the reason why kept me, I guess, alive and kept me wanting to keep pushing and being a human being, and reminded that I am still human, regardless of the badge I wore, the uniform I wore. That I'm still human, then I'm no different than anybody and everybody else here.
Can you share one of a story that you experienced and something that you would never forget, even to this day? Sometimes it even scars you.
Yep. I'm open to talk about it now. If you were asking this, a couple of years ago, I probably wouldn't talk about it, but um, there's murders are some of the most gruesome and horrible things you'll ever see. But I think what's the worst is when you live through it all, meaning you arrived on scene, you found a deceased person laying there, and then not just that, you end up having to be the person to go to the home to speak to the family. And they're asking all these questions like, where's my kid? Where's my brother? Where's my father? Right? And you can't answer those questions because at this point, you're not supposed to say anything. But even though I knew, I couldn't see anything. So all I could tell them was, hey, you got to go with us to, homicide. So then they're like, well, what happened? And so then they knew right away already that something happened. And so they're like, something must have happened. This is why you're asking us to go downtown or whatever. So, and then when you get down there and there's no other Hmong speaking officers, and you're the only Hmong speaking officer there, and the commanders, the sergeants, the captains, whoever are there, they're looking at you and going, you're it. Now you got to interpret all these things that we're going to ask these questions. This is at 2, 3 in the morning. So it's, it's one of those like, they take a long interpreting at 2, 3 in the morning, and, because time is of essence at that point. So they end up using me as an interpreter. And then after I deliver the news, the parents weren't yelling at the bosses there. They were yelling at me. Like I was the one that did it. But I understood. It took me a while to understand that they're yelling out of, is their way of coping with the news, right? Okay. And it's not because they're attacking me. It's because they didn't know anything or any other way to express their sorrow for the loss of their kid or their brother's, father. And they're yelling at me. And I took it pretty hard because they're yelling at me in Hmong. So, and no, the other people that don't speak Hmong, they're looking at me going, what's going on? What's happening, right? And I'm trying to explain to them, but of course I can't scream over them because they're just screaming at me. And so to go through that, and to see, just basically see it from point A all the way to point B, and then not just that, but I had to relive that moment over and over and over again because I had to go to court multiple times for that case.
Oh, really?
Yeah, and so that's what messed up with me, and I'm sure if it was, I don't know if I would say if it wasn't Hmong, it would make a difference, but because that situation was a Hmong family, it affected me so much to the point where, I was like, I lost sleep over it,
Really?
Mm-hmm.
Did you see the body of the murder victim too?
Yes, I did. I was right there. I touched him and everything. So.
Oh gosh.
Yeah.
Yeah, some things that we will never experience, and those are the things that I think you and the force will have trauma for the rest of your lives. And I think we forget sometimes that you could be our brothers, you could be our sisters, our cousins, uncles. And so if there's one thing that you can say to the community, to not just the Hmong community, but then to all the people out there, what would it be?
I would say that 99.9% of the guys that are wearing that uniform out there are out there because they have a purpose that they want to do the job. And that purpose normally is to help people. It's not there to harm people, right? Yeah. And that we're human beings too. We do have emotions, but we build barriers to block those emotions in a moment. Okay. And though we understand the people that we as in law enforcement understand that people are run through a crisis in the moment that they're in law enforcement, though we understand that we're not against you, we're with you. That's why we're there. It may not appear that way, but sometimes we say that our hands are tied. Mm-hmm. And there's things that we can't do. I'll say now, way back when I was in training, my field training officer and I would stop a car, and we don't know who this person is, but they appear to be, drunk. Mm-hmm. And like I said, this is a while ago, and there's no cameras then, no body cameras or anything. And we used what they call discretion. The person lived literally 2 houses away, around the corner, 2 houses away. We, instead of arresting that person and giving them a ride downtown, right, we said, okay, there's no accident that occurred. You're almost home. You're right around the corner. We asked him, do you have anybody home with you? And he said, yeah, my wife's home. Okay. So then my field training officer and I, instead of taking him to jail, we took his keys and walked around the corner with him to his house. Literally, it was that close. Okay, walked around the corner, knocked on the door and said, hey, is this your husband? Yes. Okay. We just stopped him. He doesn't seem like he's okay to drive, but he's okay. The car's okay. He's okay. It's parked around the corner. Here's his house keys and his car keys. It's your responsibility not to give it back to him until you can't drive tonight, but this is your break, right? We used to do that, actually more than once, because we were using our discretion. Because it doesn't say that you shall arrest or you may arrest, or you shall arrest, meaning you have to arrest them. It's just, that's the discretion. But then nowadays, with those cameras around, there's none of that. It's black or white, meaning it's black or white. There's no gray. It's all black or white. So if you stop somebody and they appear to be intoxicated, you ask those questions, are you intoxicated or have you drank anything? You go, yeah. Well, the next steps are what they call a field sobriety test. So you have to run through all those field sobriety tests to see if they're intoxicated or if they're impaired. And you have to go through all that process. That's the reality now, and before versus I believe that the discretion that we were given really helped us build our connection with the community. And I think that really helps with people trusting us that, no, we're not totally out there being bad. I hate watching people suffer, right? But at the same time, it's like I've been on the opposite end where I've been to a car accident or a drunk driver hit somebody and the mangled bodies. I mean, I've been on the opposite out of that, right? So I know both sides, and it's like there will never be a perfect world we live in because alcohol is legal. Everyone's going to drink and drive. Not everyone, but majority of people are going to drink and drive. So there will always be accidents until we get what we call it, robot car that drives around, right? So until that happens, then we're not going to deal with how to go accident free. But I think that it's just one of those things where it's like discretion was such a big thing, and it built such a strong community, right? Where they really understood, okay, yeah, these guys are really here to help us. They're not really here to continue to screw us, right? And yeah.
Oh, I didn't know that. Wow. So now it's like you said, just it's black or white, pretty much.
Correct. And if you don't, they're going to investigate you. They'll run internal affairs on you. Like if you let the person go and the person, say 1 out of 1,000,000, that person decides to drive again and they go and crash. Well, they can be like, well, this person stopped him at this time in the night. Why was he taken to jail? So then they're going to come back, investigate it, and go, it's your fault that you let him drive. So then now everyone's like, well, screw it. I'm not going to lose my job or my career with this.
Yeah.
Now everyone's getting screwed. I don't, so it's, yeah. We'll talk about that later too, but it's my ass or your ass, and it's going to be your ass.
So what made you stay with the force for so long, though?
I stayed with it because I thought that they're always, in law enforcement, they talk about the pendulum, and it always swings back and forth. And we also talk about sometimes it goes the other way, meaning it doesn't go the law enforcement way. And sometimes it comes back and it comes back the law enforcement way. And it was the hope that maybe in my career, the pendulum will come back and it's going to be all better. And it never got better.
I believe that the Hmong community is kind of in their shell. They don't really want to.
Scared.
Yeah, they are scared. That's the biggest thing. And they don't want to step outside of that shell. And if it's none of their business, they don't really care about it too. But sometimes you can't do that because if you do that, then you get stepped all over. And when that happens, now you're on your own.
Right.
Right? Because everybody else is like, oh, well, it's not our family. It's not us. So that's why we have to at least.
It's actually a good point you bring up because the Hmong community is like that, where they're just trying to avoid confrontations because they're trying to live peacefully. But I think that with where we're at in society nowadays, especially here in Minnesota, we have a lot of pull. Right? We have a lot of pull here. I mean, we as in the Hmong people have a lot of pull here. Oh, yeah. Where we have people and politicians, lawyers, millionaires, you name it. There are people everywhere that have power they're so afraid to come out and speak for what is right
Right.
that everyone is just sort of hiding in the shadows and hoping, going, well, it'll get better, or I don't care attitude. Yeah. And the people that suffer are, you can tell.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, that was a really sad case. I think a lot of people just kind of turn their heads, and then the next thing they know, two's locked up for 5 years. Yeah. So he's getting out this November, I believe. That's what they said. So that's going to be a topic we're going to probably cover a whole chapter on that one. Tell me about your experience, like some of the things that you have seen in there that you good, the bads, the pros, cons.
The good is the camaraderie, right? The brotherhood, okay, sisterhood, where the people that you work with that aren't a rank above you, right? They're just you. They're just an officer with you. When everybody starts out, you start off as an officer. You don't go into investigator. You don't go into, at least you're in Minnesota. You don't go and be an investigator right away, or sergeant or captain or lieutenant or whatever. Okay, you stay as a officer at that level, meaning you're just the same rank as everyone around you. Those people that are with you, that if you have partner cars, that you have a partner with you 24/7, or you have people you ride by yourself, you still work with other people in the unit or in the precinct or district that you work in. They all work with you. You see them almost every single day, right? And you spend time with them, and you get to know them. You talk about your kids, your wife. You talk about your lives, the frustrations you have, right? It's like those are your guys. Those are your brothers. And when I say brothers, I mean sister as well, but we just use the brotherhood. Those are the pros. Those are definitely pros. I mean, because you have a support, and those people there they will lay down their life to protect yours, and I'll do the same for them. Right? If shit goes south, and sorry if I cuss I cuss.
We always cuss here.
Yeah, if shit goes south and we need to get shit done, I know that my partner's gonna have my back. Now, the con to that is, towards the end of my career, the new hires that they hire, I was scared. Oh, right. So the guys that I was trained in with, the guys that trained me in, those are guys that I respect a lot because I've seen them in action, meaning fights, right? Gunfire, you name it. Those guys are like, let's go, let's get the job done. They're not scared of it. Nowadays, a lot of the kids that they're hiring nowadays think it's like the movies or the video games like Call of Duty where you're going to respawn.
Yeah.
Right? That's not reality. Reality, you hit the bullet in the head, you're done. And I think a lot of these kids now, so now when they get put in a situation where it's in your face, they either run and hide or they just freeze. They don't know what to do. No matter how much training they get, they don't know what to do. I'm not going to say that's everyone. I'm saying some of the new hires that before I left that I saw that also affected me on my decisions is my life depends on this. Is this person going to be next to me to save me? No, he's not. Right? That's not going to happen because he's just scared. So it's just a different era that we live in, and they want us to always be hands off, not be so hands on. So it's all about your voice, which I would agree, 80%. It's all about your voice, right? Those are some of the pros and cons. I would say some other pros is that, if you're a police officer, you get a good pension, right? You get a good state pension, good retirement. You get good health benefits to the city, state, or county that you work in. There's a lot of pros. There's a lot of cons. The cons would be that you sacrifice holidays, you sacrifice days with family that, like for me, I missed out on so many Christmases, New Year's, kids' birthdays sometimes. You miss out on so many things that I could never take back. And, the divorce rate is high.
Yeah.
And super high. And, it's due to it's super high in law enforcement because you're never home. You're always working. And when you're home, if you're a part of a special unit, like SWAT or something, your phone rings, you better be going. It's like, that's the commitment that you sign up for. And then like during the riots, there were no, I have a kid's birthday or I gotta go do this. Now, if you have a really good boss, he'd be like, dude, go home, right? Go home. We'll take care of it. Go to your family. Do your kid's birthday. Come back when you're ready, right? Good bosses will do that. Crappy bosses would be like, nope, you're scheduled to work. You got to work. No, and there's no exceptions. So, yeah.
Okay. So you were talking. We were talking about the divorce rate as well.
Correct.
Are you divorced
I am.
because of the job?
I am. Yep. It's the divorce rate is so high, and like I said, you sacrifice so much of your personal time, with work and this job. It's if you're gonna do well. I'm not saying I did really really good, but I did decent. Where I didn't make impacts that my goals. I set goals to make impacts, and I did make those impacts. I was able to change lives in many ways, and those are some of my dreams. But it came at a cost, and that cost was my own life, meaning my own life at home, my own wasted times that I committed because this job. They always say being a cop isn't a job; it's a lifestyle, right? So when it's a lifestyle, you change your entire life to fit that job so you can do the job really good, and so then you're not just because you want the other guys to think that you're a good cop, but you want them to remember you like, man, that guy, he came out here, he worked hard and he made a big impact. There's been times where I'll be grocery shopping, man, I'll have a random person come up to me, hey, do you remember me? And I'm like, no, I don't. I remember who you are. Sorry. And I'm thinking, first thing is like, oh crap, did I arrest this guy? Hey, that's the first thing I think. I'm like, oh crap. But he comes up and goes, hey man, thank you. I'm like, for what? You changed my life when you arrested me. I'm like, oh. He was like, but you were respectful. You didn't beat me up. You told me that was your job. You had to do what you had to do. Put me in the right places, got me clean. And now I'm raising a family. I'm happy. I'm out here doing what a normal dad is supposed to do. I'm like, hey man, congrats. That's awesome to hear. And that's what I did. That's why I did the job. I didn't do it because I wanted to go out there and be like, look how big my badge is. Look how bad I looked, right? And I went out there because I wanted to help people and make sure change their lives in a good way. And he's not the only one. I've done it. I've been approached many times as a friend of Mike who like scared right at the beginning. I'm always scared because especially if I'm with family and my kids or whoever, I'm scared because I'm not prepared in that moment. I don't if I'm not carrying a firearm or whatever, are they gonna like stab me or I don't know, right? And that goes nothing paranoia because in the Hmong community it's so small. So when you start doing things in the Hmong community, people are going to go, oh, you're that guy. We know who you are. And so if they don't appreciate what you're trying to do for them, they think that you're just a bad guy, bad cop out there trying to harm them and their family. So.
Have you ever had to arrest another Hmong guy?
Yes, many times.
Many times. Yeah. And were those more of the difficult arrests or were they more of the just put your hands up, hands behind your back in the arrest?
I would say at the beginning was a little more difficult. Okay. Because it's like where I grew up. I'm not gonna say where, but where I grew up, there's a lot of Hmong people. You get to know a lot of them, and sometimes you're arresting your friends. Sometimes your own family member, right? And I've always told myself, regardless if they're my cousin, my brother, or whoever, if they committed a crime, and if I can't go out there and do my job like I'm supposed to be doing, and upholding the law the way it's supposed to be held, then I'm not going to be a cop, right? So I've told some of my brothers, you go out there, you commit a crime, and I show up, and I don't know it was you, and I got to do my job. I'm going to do my job. I'm not going to just let you go because you're my brother, but because if you committed a serious enough crime, I'm not going to look the other way. That's not how I roll, right? Because I got sworn under oath for a certain reason, and I'm not going to break the law just so then I can give my brother a break. And that's just who I am. After a while, you get used to it.
So let's say your brother is speeding down the road, right?
Mm-hmm.
And you catch him, and you tell him, "Hey, you can't be speeding. All right, it's a 25. You're going 45. Would you give him a ticket or would you give him a pass?"
So tickets are discretionary, right?
What is discretionary?
So discretionary means that you have the option to either decide to give them a ticket or not.
Oh, okay.
Yep. So I didn't write out a lot of tickets. So no, I'd rather just give them a pass because I get everybody else passes. So there's no difference if it's my brother or not. But okay, unless they're committing a crime, a severe crime, like if they were driving drunk and they hit a person and that person's severely hurt,
Uh-huh.
or even if they're driving drunk and they hit a parked car, that's a severe crime. But if it's a speeding, if you're speeding, it's just one of those like, hey, dude, slow down, please. I couldn't tell you how many times I've done that to everybody, and sometimes you stop people that have, revoked driver's license. They're not supposed to be driving, and they've had like 10 violations in the last 6 months, right? And we could arrest them, but instead of arresting them, I was like, okay, this is gonna be like the 11th time you're getting a warning, but slow down and don't drive because you don't have a driver's license. So then just make them park the car, make them walk. Yeah, because they can't drive. But don't write them a ticket or anything. You just tell them to stop, just knock it off. Because of the discretionary ticket rating, I've actually been able to build your relationships with people. And then they all like people like, hey, baby, hey, what's up, dude? Like, you're that guy. And you're like, yeah. And they're like, that's what's up. Like, you know who we are. I know who you are. Like, you take care of the family out here, Mike. I do. So just chill, keep it chill. Don't do nothing crazy. Yeah, all right. So then that's how I build my relationships out there, actually. Right. So
What about I always hear that at the end of the month, police officers have quotas. Is that what the hell is that?
that's not an actual thing. I think there's a state statute that says that departments can't require sworn police officers to write tickets. There's actual, I forget, if I remember right, there's an actual state law in Minnesota says that departments cannot require you to write a certain amount of tickets.
Oh, okay.
Yep. So that's why it's discretionary.
I see.
Yep. So majority of the times, though, I'll tell you this: the guys that do write those tickets love writing tickets.
Oh, really?
Yep. So in bigger cities, they have traffic units, and that's all they do. Okay. Their job is to go out there and stop cars and tag them. They don't tell them how much tags, but they tell them you go out there and you do traffic. That's your job. The suburb agencies, they have like radars on the cars. So if you're speeding in the suburbs, they're gonna write you a ticket. So because it's different policing style. We will say like the outer suburbs, they don't really have much to do, right, other than traffic. Yeah. But the inner city cops, not that they don't have anything to do, they have stuff to do. And so there are times downtime, but then they're also less time for them to do traffic because they're dealing with other stuff. So like doing a traffic stop is really on their top priority list.
Okay.
And especially nowadays with the number of police officers that are no longer on the force, they're hurting right now for people. So they probably won't be doing too many traffic stops. Is it hard to get into the police force? When I started, yes, there's thousands applying for one spot. Now, you could probably barely get 100 people to apply for 5 spots.
Really?
Yeah.
So, because I gotta say, my brother, he is a correction officer, and he had to go through quite a bit. Is there a difference between police officers and correction officers when they're trying to apply for the job?
No, not very much. Not a big difference. I mean, you go through your Odyssey, your interviews. You have multiple interviews, right? When you just one and then you get the job. You'd have like 1, 2, 3. You have the chief's interview, and then you have to go through a background process, and you have a background investigator, and that investigator, their main job is to investigate your background. They go to your schools, your neighbors, they touch your family, right? They do the whole digging on who you are, your character, on who you are, before that you get a job. And then after all those backgrounds done, you have like what they call a psych test. So a psych test means a licensed psychologist.
Okay.
Have you sit down and you got to go through these questionnaire, and there's a system to it, and they do a psych test where they test you with like 8,000 questions or whatever. It took me hours. I couldn't tell you how long. Hours to complete this test. And then they run this test through like a machine, and then it gives all the red flags that's wrong with you. And then they sit you down, and then they go through, okay, so like tell me about you, where are you from, why you think you see ghosts, right? Stuff like that, right? Yeah. And they're trying to, because in our culture, we believe in the spiritual realm. Right. Therefore, when Hmong people go to do our psych test, we go, I believe in spirits. All right. And those were always one of the questions that would come out because I had to do it twice. So, but they're always be like, oh, why do you believe in spirits? And you explain your culture to them. They're like, oh, okay, you're not crazy. You're just, I get it. It's your culture. Okay. And so, at the majority of the time, when these psychologists are doing these, they're not Hmong. They have no clue. And so, after the psych test, if you pass that, then you go through the department training. So, like if you go to a suburb agency, it may be only a month of training, and then they throw you on the streets. I mean, they do a month of basic training, their policies, procedures, basic defensive tactics, firearms, and they go, "You're good," and then throw you on the street with a field training officer. And the inner city like Minneapolis, St. Paul, or I would even say like Brooklyn Park, Center, Burnsville, like some other cities, they are starting to create their own training academy, just like the inner city. Okay. And so then it's actually a very rigorous training where you have to do their training. And this doesn't even include an educational portion of it. Excuse me, before you even get hired, there's a test called a post test before you even get hired that you have to pass.
Wow.
And the post test is like, I mean, now with all the new requirements, it's even more ridiculous to just pass a post test. And it's not easy to pass. And then you pass that, I mean, you go through all the hoops I talked about. And then at the end of it, you have the field training field training portion of it. And they're testing your ability to multitask, drive, talk on the radio, listen to the radio, talk on the phone, right? And then not just that, but they're testing your geography. If you're not from the area, figure it out. Like there's just so many moving parts to it that I think a lot of people fail out of. Those steps. A lot of people will strip the steps and then they'll fail out of the background, or they'll go through the steps and then they'll go through all of it and then fail at the psych. Where it's like, okay, there's something wrong. Nothing wrong with you. It's just there's something that they don't like. And then they give it to the department and make a decision if they're going to take you on. If the department's like, no, that's too much risk, we're not taking you on, then you fail from your psych. So then you have to just reapply for a different department that may accept you. So,
wow.
Yeah, it's such a long process. I mean, it could go anywhere from 6 months to a year process just to get hired.
Did it take you that long?
Yeah, it took me 6 months to get hired. But it was a long process. Okay, yeah.
And were your parents pretty proud when you became?
Yep, very, very proud.
During that time, I totally believe it.
And that time especially, it was me versus 999 people. Yeah, right. So if I was able to go in there, get interviewed, and get hired over everybody else, anybody else, so everyone was like, "Oh, you got hired because you're Hmong." No, I didn't get hired because I was Hmong. I got hired because I'm competent enough to sit here in front of a group of people. Yeah. You have a good presentation, have a good background, and they have a good character. That's what it's about. It's not about the skin color or where I come from. But people like to think that that's what it is, and so when you go to departments, a lot of departments think, oh, he got hired because he's Hmong. No, I got hired because I'm out here just like you are working hard. That's how I got hired.
How come there's some officers that will get fired from this department, but they can still get hired from another department?
I think it depends on the severity of whatever they got fired for. Okay. Like a lot of younger kids, 21 years old, they'll start a job as a police officer at 21 years old. And they're still a baby in my eyes. At 21 years old, they're still a baby, especially in the police world. And then you go in there and they give you this big badge, a vest, a gun, and you're out there, and then the power gets to your head.
Okay.
And then you start to think that you're invincible to it all. And then you get DWI, right? Off duty. Not on duty, off duty. And because you're still on probation, and you're already through training, you jump through all these hoops, you're still on probation, and just because you have the DWI, the department goes, you're a probationary employee. You're not going to make it. Goodbye. And then they fire you. So there's those things. And you just have to, people will take like years off or a couple months off, and they'll reapply to go to a different department and be hired out. But there's that, or there's like dumb things like baby mama drama, right?
Yeah.
Someone's baby mama drama said that, he's doing this, and they get rid of him. And then you just, okay, well, there's no crime, there's nothing happening, they just didn't like it, so they got rid of you. Because departments are so scared. They're so scared of getting in trouble. They're so scared of liability. So, and we'll get into it, but liability is like number one on the police department's list because they don't want to have a lawsuit laying in front of them. Yeah, no.
Wow. Those lawsuits usually are they're not really friendly too.
No, they're not friendly. Thank God that I was never involved in one. I've seen and heard and watched, and it's ugly. It is. It tears people apart. I mean, it tears family apart. So
Are you talking about the officer families, or are you talking about
the officer's family,
the even the department families too?
yeah, because they start to use cops against one another.
Oh, really?
Yeah, they'll be like, "What did you do? What did you see?" And then if you lie and they got you on camera, well, you're lying. So then you're not going to make it.
And in that situation, would they fire both officers or whoever's lying?
Whoever's lying, they fire because there's a there's a letter called a Brady Giglio letter. Okay, and I'm pretty sure you know what that is, but when a police officer violates policy, or if a police officer violates or lies, before that police officer goes before a court to testify, the prosecutors have to ask the department, okay, does this police officer, is he or she a Brady Giglio officer? And meaning that has he been documented as a liar or a policy violator? Mm-hmm. And if you're a documented liar or a policy violator, they can't really use you in court because how do they know you're lying in court? Therefore, those Brady Giglio officers can't testify.
Now, we talked about squad too. To be on the squad when you're on the force, do you get picked to join the squad, or is it just a choice of your?
A little bit of both. So people, the proper way is they post a position. If it's a SWAT, specialty unit, it could be SWAT, K9, it could be, like the drone unit, it could be like undercover, like drug unit or gang unit, whatever it is. Mm-hmm. They post it and then you apply for it. At the end of the day, it's like, when you're kids and you sit there and there's a line of people and you pick the best one, that's what they're going to do. They don't pick the best one that they think is the best one.
So being a police officer, did you have sick days? Could you call in sick?
You did have sick days. You had vacation days. Yeah, you could call in sick. You can call in sick, but it's looked down upon. If you called in once every year, that's okay. But if you called in sick 2-3 times a month, that's a problem. And a lot of the senior officers, they save it. So when they go to retire, they get a fat check when they have a fat number of sick days sitting on their bank. So they get a payoff from the city when they don't call in sick a lot.
Oh, I see.
Yeah.
I see. Okay. We're gonna take another break, and then we'll get into Black Lives Matter.
Oh, dude.
All right.